He moved to the suburbs for peace, but what he found was surveillance, manipulation, and a neighbor in a yellow tracksuit who knew far too much. What started as odd questions quickly spiraled into false accusations, a 911 call, and a secret criminal past. This is the true story of how one man turned the tables, exposed the fraud, and helped a neighborhood reclaim its freedom. When I bought my house in Oakridge Heights, I thought I was buying peace. The neighborhood was quiet, the lawns perfectly lined. There was a HOA, but the realtor assured me it was mostly symbolic seasonal newsletters, block parties, the occasional email about trash schedules. It sounded harmless. I needed somewhere to breathe, somewhere private. I didn't expect to need armor. My name is Andre Watson. I work in cybersecurity. So I'm familiar with how easily information can be used, twisted, weaponized, stolen. That's why I guard my privacy the same way a jeweler guards a safe. I assumed that in a small, suburban cul-de-sac, people would do the same. Then I met Brenda. It was a Saturday morning. I was on my front porch, wiping down the railings, enjoying the late sun and the quiet. Brenda appeared like a sitcom character, brisk steps, high-pitched voice, and a banana yellow tracksuit that almost made me squint. She introduced herself as Community Liaison. Her badge was laminated and lanyard-bound. Clearly homemade. I just like to keep everyone connected, she said with a bright smile. Mind if I ask a few things? Before I could respond, she was already talking. Emergency contact, place of work, anyone in the home with medical conditions. I froze. The questions weren't casual. They were precise, like a form dressed up as small talk. Most people would have brushed it off, maybe answered out of politeness, but I knew better. Is this for a neighborhood system? I asked, masking suspicion with a smile. Oh no, nothing formal, she replied. Just a spreadsheet I keep for safety. You never know. That was enough. I prefer to keep that private, I said calmly. If there's a real emergency, authorities can handle it. She laughed politely, but I saw the flicker of offense in her eyes. The next day, she returned, this time with her husband, Gary, and a thick folder of paperwork. It looked official. HOA forms, she claimed. I flipped through. Several pages asked for more details. Vehicle info, household members, emergency access permissions. These aren't standard documents, I said. Brenda pursed her lips. They're part of a pilot program. I refused to sign. And that's when it started. Overnight, small infractions appeared like weeds. Notes taped to my mailbox. Anonymous complaints about trash placement. A citation for non-regulation lighting, even though my porch bulb was HOA approved. When I reviewed the official handbook, none of the complaints matched the guidelines. Brenda, it seemed, was enforcing her own version of order. But I didn't just suspect malice. I suspected method. So I did what I do best. I investigated. It didn't take long to trace Brenda's digital footprint. She wasn't as careful as she thought. Social media revealed old usernames linked to her maiden name, Brenda Keene, a name that rang a bell when I ran a public records search 10 years ago. In another state, Brenda Keene had been charged with wire fraud and misuse of consumer data. The case was pled down, but the details were revealing she'd manipulated senior citizens into signing over financial information under the guise of neighborhood safety. It was the same playbook, just dusted off and reskinned in suburban charm. The HOA president confirmed my growing suspicion. Brenda no longer held any official title. She had been voted off the board last year after questions arose about accounting discrepancies. But she never stepped back. She just rebranded herself as Liaison and kept knocking on doors. Then came the party. A few friends from work came over one Friday night. Nothing wild, just music, barbecue, and conversation on the back patio. At 9:43 p.m., the doorbell rang. Brenda stood there with two women from the neighborhood, all holding phones. One filmed as Brenda launched into a speech about disturbances and quality of life. "You're being documented," she said with theatrical menace. "For what?" I asked. "For the record," she replied. "There have been complaints. I stared into her camera and calmly asked if she had evidence. She didn't. She filed a complaint the next morning anyway, alleging verbal aggression, inappropriate gatherings, and unauthorized use of outdoor lighting. I filed one of my own, with evidence. I submitted clips from my security system. I pulled HOA emails confirming no violations. I attached screenshots of Brenda's previous fraud conviction and online behavior, which included racially charged posts disguised as neighborhood commentary. But Brenda wasn't done. She returned one final time, alone, demanding to verify my ID for neighborhood records. I told her to leave. She didn't. Instead, she stood on my porch and called 911. I'm afraid for my safety. She told the dispatcher, he's threatening me. But what she didn't know, what she never even thought to consider, was that I had full porch audio and video surveillance. The entire conversation, every word, every lie. When the police arrived, I didn't flinch. I showed them the footage. They watched, listened, took notes. Her story fell apart in under 5 minutes. She tried to pivot, claimed harassment, said I targeted her, that I was manipulating public records. But the officers weren't buying it. They opened a formal inquiry, and once they started digging, the truth didn't just emerge, it burst. Brenda had been siphoning small amounts of community funds through a fake contractor account she created while on the HOA board. She had misused data collected under false pretenses. Several neighbors, especially elderly residents, had given her full personal details. Unaware of what she really was, she was arrested 3 weeks later. Fraud, identity theft, filing a false police report, impersonating an official, and Oakridge Heights. It woke up, for the first time in years. Neighbors came together. We held a real HOA meeting, voted on transparency reforms, installed new leadership. I was asked to consult on digital privacy measures for the entire community. We started a private forum where residents could report concerns without fear of retaliation. We even held a block party, our first in nearly a decade. Kids rode bikes down the sidewalk. A jazz trio played under string lights. And someone, jokingly, brought a piñata shaped like a yellow tracksuit. I never set out to be the center of anything. I came for peace. But when pushed, I stood my ground. Not with shouting, not with spite, but with clarity, evidence, and the kind of quiet force that can't be shaken by intimidation. Brenda thought she could bend the rules, that she could twist truth with a smile and a clipboard. But in trying to root me out, she revealed herself. Now, Oakridge Heights is stronger, quieter, smarter, and if you ever walk past my house, you'll still see the rosemary in bloom, still smell charcoal in the air, but you won't see yellow tracksuits anymore. Not around here.